Hi and welcome to this video in the QPS MR Insight Going Deeper series. And in this video we're going to be looking at the business of correcting and changing data. So this is video 42 and you'll find the files that go with this video. So we're going to look at this particular questionnaire. It's got a couple of demographic questions and it goes down to question 15. You'll see there's a couple of variables in here with the butterfly symbol that have been built. But we're looking at what we can do and the rules we need to obey when it comes to inspecting and changing data. So I'm going to get on with opening up the data on this particular project. And you'll see here I've got a data file called My Data. And if I go down the bottom, you can see that's got 831 records in that file. And there's some useful information at the bottom of this file here. It tells me what serial number I'm expecting. It shows me that I'm in view mode only. I'm not actually correcting any data. It tells me a bit about the questions, the position in the file, and who I am even, and the file path that I'm working on. So there's some useful information down there if you're not quite sure what file you're actually editing or looking at. We're going to be working in the data module of QPS MR Insight. So let's just look at some of the menus here. Now most of this file menu is really to do with inserting other files, importing and exporting and updating from CSVs, and that's all covered in other videos. The serial menu here, that lets you go up and down the file, and you can see there's function keys to let you move up and down. So F7 will move you up a questionnaire or to the previous questionnaire, F6 move you down, and control F7 and F6 will move to the top and the bottom. And if you want to find a particular questionnaire, you can just click on the find and that will find that particular record for you. Now one thing to say about QPS MR is that it will expect each serial number to be unique. That's not true of MRDCO where you can have duplicate serial numbers. So if sometimes perhaps you've got duplicate serial numbers perhaps within two samples, so that the serial number is made up of a 1 or a 2 for sample 1 and sample 2, and then a serial number within that, you would need to enclose all of those fields in the serial number to make it a composite serial number so that each record had a unique identifier. Well, this data's got 831 records, which I think number from 1 down to 831, so that's all fine. But you'd need to bear that in mind if you were perhaps pulling together other data sets. So let's look at moving around this particular file here. And as I said, you've got F6 and F7. So F6 will move me down a record. If I hit that twice, you can see now at the bottom, I'm at record number 3, or serial number 3, which is the third record in the file. There it is, serial number 3, position 3. As I say, they're numbered sequentially here. And if I hit F7, I go back up one, and indeed Control F7 will take me to the top of the file. If I'm looking for a particular serial number in the file, or I want to amend a particular serial number, remember I'm just in view mode at the moment, I can either go to the serial find menu here, or I can just choose F8. So if I want to go to record number 100, and you can see now I've gone to the 100th record in the file, which is also record number 100. Alright, so that's doing some work just moving around the file for viewing things. I can move from question to question either by arrowing down using the arrow keys, and that will show me what data this particular record has. So I'm looking at record 100, I'm looking at question 3, and I can see that the business location question has the answer Malaysia here. Now I've got no option to change it at this stage, I'm just viewing it. But you can see over the right hand side here, it's given me an audit trail of the different things that I've been selecting. If I want to jump somewhere else, I can just click on this here, Q12A, and I go straight to the answer for Q12A, where in fact there's no answer. But if I go to Q12B, I can see I've got very unimportant given for that particular rating statement. So that's how I can move around the file. That's all pretty self-explanatory. If I want to delete a questionnaire, I can just go into this menu here and go onto the action delete questionnaire, and that would remove now serial number 100 for my data file so that it would reduce the size of the file by 1. I can with care change the serial number, but bear in mind there, if I try to change the serial number, it's going to need to respect the fact that I've already got serial numbers 1 to 831 in here, and generally it's not a good idea to change the serial number unless, of course, it's been misentered or something like that. Now, the other things on this menu are worth taking in. We're going to spend most of our time now in updating this particular questionnaire or questionnaires. You have got a mode where you've got a verify mode, and what that will do is let someone rekey the data, comparing blindly what was entered previously with what the verifier is actually entering on this occasion. And if there's any discrepancies, the person verifying has the option to either accept what the original person, the first person, entered, or they can actually override it and say, no, that as I'm verifying here, my answer is actually the correct answer. So that's a way of double entering data so that there's an option to verify. That's not quite the same as entering the data twice and comparing the files. That is another technique where you need something like MRDCL script language to read each of the files and tell you the differences between the two files. So that's verification. We're not going to do that in this video. We're going to stick here to updating and making changes. So if we want to make an update to the change, to the data here, we can just go into the update questionnaire mode. We're going to update number 100 here, and we're back now to looking at the answers that were entered. So if I go down to gender, I can see that this respondent is male. If that was an error, I can just click to female here, and that would change that data for me. I could click to question 12b, where it said very unimportant. If that was a mistake, I can make it very important. So I can make any changes I want to the data here. If it's a question like, let's pick another one here, question 5, I can just change that one. And in the case of a question where it's a multi-code question, so let's see if we can go down and find a multi-coded question. So this question here is a multi-coded question. The answer picked was a cheap price. If perhaps high standards and quickest way were missed out, I can just add those. And if I wanted to remove cheap price, I would have to, on a multi, click to uncheck it, because I can add answers to a multi, whereas on a single question, it would be an alternative answer and would replace what was there previously. If I've got an integer, I can just overtype that. So this one here has a value of 1. If I wanted to make that 10, I could just change it to 10, and that would make the change for me. So it's pretty easy to make your changes to your data. As you save it, it will save that to the file. It will record in a log the fact that you edited that file at this particular time and date and who edited it. So that's a way of knowing who worked on a project. But this is a really easy piece of software to use for finding the questions you want. You do have the up and down arrows and the control up and down to take you to the questions that you want to at the top or the bottom. You can just abandon all the work that you've done. So although I've made 3 or 4 changes here, I could hit the F11 key and abandon those, or I could just save the changes, and now it's saved it and I'm on to the next record, 101, and I can start to make changes here and so on. So it's pretty easy to use as an editor of data. Well, that completes this video. You'll find other videos showing you how you can make other changes externally from QPS, perhaps where you want to make mass changes because of an error. This tool really is for making individual changes to individual questionnaires where perhaps they flagged up in an edit report that you've run in QPSMR or another piece of software like MRDCL, or perhaps you just know there's something that's wrong in the tables and you need to correct it in the individual data records. Thank you for joining this video. I hope it was useful to you in editing and changing